I'm getting phone calls from the ag community right now, and they're saying, we want to come in and talk to you. And I thought they wanted to come in and talk about tariffs or trade or something like that. No, they're coming in and saying, we have to do something about lawsuits. These are unsolicited calls from the ag community, and they're painting these pictures of getting crops out of the field, trying to bring them to the mill for product, and they're having huge problems getting affordable insurance, huge problems avoiding these headhunter lawsuits on the road to the mill. That's an issue. The truckers, the commercial truckers, they're reaching out big numbers. They're calling me. They're saying, listen, we have an insurance crisis brewing in Louisiana. They say, look, we can get 2 people to write commercial truck insurance, 2. If you go back several years ago, it was 5 or 6. That lack of competition, that lack of ability to get those competitive rates is absolutely having an impact. We're hearing some of the commercial truckers who are starting to contemplate, should we go set up shop in Texas or Mississippi instead? We can't lose those types of jobs. Now, tort reform is a topic in Louisiana that gets talked about year after year after year, and it's really hard to pass. Politically, in that building down the street, it's almost impossible to pass something on tort reform. Trust me, I know. I've had my head under the anvil plenty of times in that committee trying to do it. But it has to happen at some point. And the reason why is because of the insurance challenge we're facing. You know, I have a 15-year-old son. He turned 16 in 2 weeks. I, like many other families who encounter that scenario, started looking into insurance rates. And if you've got a 16-year-old boy that you're about to get car insurance for, it's not a fun discussion with your local insurer. And you know what? The local insurer doesn't like having that conversation either. In Louisiana, we have the 2nd highest auto insurance rates in the country. And those rates are almost double the national average. Almost double the national average. Now that is a huge spike to where it is. That hits families. That's hit those truckers I talked about earlier. That hits every small business that has to move their product and buy insurance for that. That's an absolute real issue. And what's most frustrating on the tort front is how simple and compromise-laden some of the solutions are. Why do we have such high rates? Well, you'll get different theories if you ask members of the trial bar. I'll tell you the theory that I have. The theory that I have in Louisiana, we have roughly the same amount of wrecks than most states. But when it comes to bodily injury claims, we're double. We're double the amount of bodily injury claims. Now, either the Cajun spice has softened our tissue and blood cells and we're just genetically altered from the rest of the country, or there's a lot of stuff cost in there. So how can they stop it? How can they put those costs in there? Well, in Louisiana, it's almost impossible to get a jury trial on a car wreck case because we have the highest threshold in the state. It's hard to get in front of that jury. It's a lot easier for that attorney that's suing you to get in front of the judge they want, and if you do get a jury, to prevent what information goes to them. If you're wearing a seatbelt or not, we can't tell you because of the gag orders put in place. If you had your medical claims covered, we can't tell a jury because of the legislative gag order put in place over the years. There's some minor compromises on those fronts that I think we should try that can make a difference on this. And let me talk about members of the trial bar for a second. I represent business. The book out there in that building is, I have to be against the trial bar and everything. I want to tell you something. There is compromise to be had here. I know many members of the trial bar are just doing what the state's incentivizing them to do. We want to talk about incentives on the business side all the time. We talk about ITEP. We talk about all the incentives that goes in business. We have legal incentives put in law which encourage lawsuits. They're just doing what the government's telling them to do. So if we modify some of these, I think some compromise can be had where the people who need the claims and need the recovery get it, but also we don't inflate our insurance rates anymore because I'm really worried about a hemorrhaging of trucking companies and ability for our ag producers to get their products to the mill in a responsible and reasonable way. So that tort issue is real, and we're ready to work with anyone and compromise with anyone to try to get some improvements there, wherever we want to be at that table.
With regard to the tort reform that you mentioned, David Vitter in the gubernatorial campaign in 2015 very actively pushed the $0 jury trial threshold. The next closest state being Maryland behind us from 50 down to 17, and 36 states having no threshold whatsoever, 0. Many people believe that that's what motivated the trial lawyers, the John Carmouches, the Gordon McKernans, to pony up $6 million to bring up prostitute ads to ensure Vitter's defeat. Do you have any inclination as to whether the 2 major Republican announced candidates will be willing to take take the banner where he left off and run with it in terms of that, getting the jury trial threshold reduced to 0?
Well, I would say that I would hope every candidate would see the need to reduce the jury trial threshold. And whether it goes to 0 or some compromise in between, we're open to any solution that finds a way to lower insurance rates in this state, lowers those auto insurance rates, stops putting that tax on the back of the farmers, stop putting that tax on the back of the truckers. We're open to a solution there. I'm sure they'll be rolling out their proposals, the two candidates, on where they're on that. I'm assuming the governor will lay out maybe his proposal on this, whether it's changed or not. I'm ready to work with anyone and everyone on that issue, and I'll let them speak for themselves on what their agenda is.
Then a quick follow-up, any reservations at all that you didn't put your own name in the hat? I know you considered it.
No.
All right.
The commissioner of insurance has told me that the constant stream of ads on TV by personal injury attorneys gives the insurance executives severe heartburn. Any comments on that?
That would be accurate.